Hey guys, SoCal Val here. You are listening to the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast.
Welcome everybody back to the Hitting the Turnbuckle channel. It is our interview spotlight day, and I'm very delighted to say that we have, I'm going to say the best British women's wrestler, because otherwise I get in trouble, from a fellow Essex Ian as well. I don't know how far from me that she is, but she's here. And I've got a Hal Windsor, because I'm talking to Alex Windsor. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm all right, thank you. I've just been to the gym, so I'm a little bit knackered, but I've got my cup of tea, so it's all good. All is good with the world, but I've got a cup of tea.
All is good with the world. You got your cup of tea, not your scrambled eggs, and you're not jet lagged from Denmark as well. So you literally got back from
Not
Copenhagen.
too bad. Yes, there's only an hour's difference, so it's not too painful.
Not too painful. Well, thank you for taking your time out of your day to speak to us. So the time of recording, it's 11:30 our time. It will go out on the same day, so we're fine. But it was
Lovely job.
Earlier this morning. It's been a crazy year last year for you. We'll talk. But
Yeah.
Go on, carry on, go.
I started off the year with 2 knee injuries. I thought I'd outdo myself and get 2 in 1.
Buy one, get one free, right?
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, I started off the year already with a meniscus injury, and then that wasn't enough. So I thought I'd dislocate my other knee as well. So, I can't leave one out and not the other. And then once again, I mean, at this point, I'm a pro. If at nothing else, I'm a pro at recovery. So I put my mind to getting back into the ring, I think, in about April, because when I had the dislocation, I actually found out apparently my knees are just dodgy, like where like the knee joints should sit properly. Apparently mine doesn't curve all the way in. So apparently my knees are more susceptible to just popping out. So I was a little bit like, shit, can I actually go back to wrestling? But the surgeon I went to, when I said wrestling, he thought I meant like legit like sumo wrestling. So when I told him I wanted to go back to it with my injury, he was like, is that not going to make people like want to go for your knees more? And I was like, well, no, because I'll just tell him I'm injured. And he was like, well, how does that work? I was like, oh, I said, it's the wrestling that's like stage, that kind of wrestling. So I was like, so I can tell people like, look, I've got a legit injury, lay off the knee. And he was like, oh, I thought you meant real wrestling. I was like, well, it's not real, is it? But so yeah, I kind of thought for a good like couple of months, I was like, oh shit, like maybe I can't go back to wrestling, because I'd been advised like not to. But it was just a bit of miscommunication between me and the surgeon, and he was just like, oh well, in that case, he was like, just make sure like you still do like your physio, like you're always like on the recovery side of them. And I came back in July, I think, last year. So I kind of only really had like the back end of last year, but without getting too ahead of myself, I finally feel like I'm actually hitting my stride, like at long last.
Yeah, definitely. So is it hard to like, and I know it's probably going to sound stupid. We had talking to a wrestler last week with Tommy Kyle. He had an injury as well. The question I asked him was around like when you're back in there for the first time and you're doing a move or even just landing, because sometimes landing can jolt it. Is there like,
oh yeah, definitely.
Is there a concern or anything where you think, oh shit, I need to like, is it gonna go? Is that always in the back of your mind, or do you have to kind of blank it out?
Oh, absolutely. Like it's always there. Like, and I definitely think half or even more so, what holds you back, like once you've had an injury, it's all in your head. Like I did a match in Japan against Nakito, and we did a move where at the time, like we practiced the match the day before, and we went to the dojo, and she'd done a move where basically I had to jump off the middle rope and land on my front. And I've always had like a bit of a mental block there, because I think, right, if I land this on my knees, I'm gonna fuck my knees like even more. So I was like, I have to land on my front with my legs out straight. If not, I could like injure myself again. And we'd done it in the match, and it was absolutely fine. Then and we got back after, and I was like, thank you so much. Like I was so nervous about my knees beforehand, and she was like, I'm sorry for making you do the move. I was like, no, like thank you for making me do it, because it's all in my head. I was like, my knees are absolutely fine. It's like all in my head. So I do think like you do just have to kind of sometimes just think, fuck it, just do it, because if you overthink it, that's when you're gonna injure yourself. Like that's when accidents happen. Like when you hesitate or when you get too in your head that you half-ass it. Like, yeah, I think the majority of it, you do just have to fuck it off and just and just go for it.
Absolutely, no, I agree. I totally agree. I've had an ankle injury playing football. It finished me off as
Yeah.
a kid at the time, and I would say
Mm.
I was reasonably good, but then
Yeah.
kind of like what you said, getting back into it. Now I have to watch from the sidelines when my son plays football, and I'm one of those parents. You know what I'm
Yeah.
talking about on
Are
the
you like
sideline.
extra like, oh, be
No,
careful?
I'm more like fucking.
Oh, I thought that was going the complete opposite way, but no.
No, no, no. I think I've had a ban already with
Oh,
a
you've had a ban.
yeah, me. Yeah. I've had a ban,
Oh,
yeah.
I didn't realize that. Is that a real thing? They can actually be like, look, mate, like
They can just say
you're
like,
getting a bit
yeah,
too involved.
it was either that or he gets banned for a game. So I took one for the team.
That's brilliant. Oh no.
So that's
I've
a
got all
great
that to look forward to.
you do. If you get into football, definitely so. I'm happy he's into football. But we
Yeah.
move on to, yes, you're right. You was out to July, and it was my first ever Rev Pro show that I'd ever been to.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no, I'm not a wrestling snob or anything. I spent a lot of my time
Yeah.
watching the WWE and going to WrestleManias and all that
Yeah.
stuff. And then I come on this podcast November time last year, and we was trying to like,
Okay.
let's go to some more shows over here. Let's and coverage it like we do, pictures all over the bloody place that we put out. And it was that show, and it was the show that you won the championship back from
Yes.
Sky and I think Sky and Danny, was it, or Sky and Danny?
Guy, Danny, and Hyan.
That was it, Sky Danny. And we had the great seats because what's the point? We got to Bethnal Green and we got to our seat. And the first thing I
Yeah.
was like, and I haven't been to a British show in years. I mean, it was like the old
Yeah.
MPW the first time was like my last British show. And I was like, oh, they've got a stage. Oh, they've got screens. This is, it's a perception thing, isn't it, when you go to these things? And I had the luxury of sitting in front of Geo. So
Oh, okay.
it was like being at home but being
Yeah.
there. So I had both. I had the commentary that I could hear Andy and Gio, and it threw me because it
Oh,
was
that's a perfect mix, like.
what I say, if we ever go, and I've been to Rev Pro a couple of times since, and I've sat near him a couple of times since, and
Yeah.
for me it makes it because you do miss the commentary side of things. I always think they should come with like the headset so you could listen while you're there.
Yeah, get like all the reactions as well.
Yeah, because I'm not generally when I watch wrestling, I don't cheer. I do cheer or boo when you come out, but then when watching it, I'm kind of like tunnel vision.
Yeah.
I just watch what's going on. But yeah, you won the title back then, and you held it for quite a considerable time, which was really good. But coming back from injuries then and winning that title so quickly, was that? Did you think, am I ready? Am I ready to do this? Or was it a case of, nah, fuck it, we're going straight onto it?
I think it was like when I had the initial match and I won the belt, I was like, fuck yeah, like I'm back. Like it was like to start on such a high, but then it was kind of like after that, it was, oh, I'm back now. I'm in it. Like, because I guess like I was hyping myself up for that like specific date, like in July. That's when I come back. I didn't really think about after that. So it was like to go from like winning the belt. So I was like, okay, like I'm back now. Like, what a way to return. But then after that, it's like I'm actually got a return now. I'm back in the game. So it was kind of like a not really like a double-edged sword. Like there wasn't too much like negative about it, but it was just a bit more of like a reality check. After I'd won, I was like, I have to keep like the ball rolling now.
You certainly did. I mean, you were champion for quite some time. You only recently
Yeah.
did you lose it to Danny, who's finally won it. But you also had a little dabble in the Impact Wrestling in this last
I
year.
did, yes.
And how was that for you? Because obviously that's a big. They've obviously now you look at TNA now it's back and they're taking
Yeah.
the likes of Leon, Trent, Danny's been over there, Harley, Zaya. But for you, did you get the sense when you was there, you Giselle Shaw you took on, right?
Yes, yeah.
Did you feel like you could feel that momentum that they're bringing when they come back over here last year?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Like, I have to say, like, not just being on the show, but like backstage as well. Like, they're such like a good unit of like
Yeah.
people to work around. Like, it just makes all the difference. Like, and it's not like the most important thing, but when you're like backstage and you're like nervous for a show, and you've just got like a group, even just like obviously like well, didn't see so much of the guys there, but like in the girls' changing room, like everyone was just excited to be around each other, excited for each other's matches. Like, it just gets you like that much more hyped up. And then like coming back after the match as well, like I couldn't say like a bad word about it. Like it was just like such a good experience to be a part of.
It's really good now and great that I mean, they were riding a crest of a wave for ages anyway. They were just such quietly sort of going this way.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? Like, and then it's just all of a sudden it's just like exploded.
Yeah, it's been great. I mean, we're fortunate enough to be on the media side of TNA, so we had the first interview last week with the Decay, and it was great for us to have that.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and it was really good to have TNA back, because it's been so long since, the Impact days. But going back to you, more importantly, you, this last year, obviously, you say you've come back from your injury. What about this year, though? What are you looking to do in 2024?
I think my main goal is to travel more. Like I would love to go back to the States, do some like excursions out there, maybe even Japan again. Like I think it's like one thing getting back and settled into like the scene, but then it's like, okay, I'm back in the UK now. Like I found my feet. What's next? That kind of thing. And I feel like for me, the next thing is to just get my reps in like all over the world.
Yeah, well, they should easily book you. So if anyone is in the States still watching, I don't know, maybe they are.
You never know.
Alex is available, and she is, like I said, I have to say the best because you're sitting. Well, you're not sitting in front of me, but you're on another screen. So definitely book Alex for your shows anyway. But women's wrestling in general, now it's been different on the scene over here. It's been brilliant for ages, so long anyway. Obviously, in the bigger companies, it's always been, I always say it's like a roller coaster thing. You'll get moments when it's been like great, and then they dip it, and then it goes up again. And now you've got the likes of, Rhea Ripley doing her thing, and you've got, Britt Baker hopefully be coming back in AEW soon, and you've got people like that. But is it more like, do you think that they just need to get to a point where it's consistently great? Or
I think that's the thing, Yeah, I don't know if that comes down to like storylines, like how far ahead they're thinking. But yeah, I definitely think when you have got even just like a core, consistent group of people that you can work around, bring a couple of people in here, a couple of people in here. But I think if you've got your core like roster, so to speak, like that's when that's when the fans can really, like, they're not just in it for the wrestling, they're in it for the storylines. And that's just like another added layer to what wrestling is. Like it's not just about a match between two random people. Like when you've got the emotion behind it, and can fans, like, because at the end of the day, like, people like watching TV when there's a story to follow. And that comes as wrestling as well. Like if there's no story, you like the wrestling, but that's only one layer to it. Like, so when you've got the storyline, that's when people can really like become invested and think, I want to watch it next week for this reason, not just for the wrestling.
It's a bit like, you could even call it a bit like the you and Danny last year, really. You had those number of matches where you beat her, and then eventually she gets that win at the back end of last year, and that obviously culminates the story. But you've got that emotion, you've got the people like wanting to. You can even argue now they've got this Rock and Cody thing going on in the States where there's that to it, but that kind of plays into exactly what you're saying. It's meaningful matches with a storyline, and a payoff end of it that then creates an additional bit for the next chapter, so to speak.
Yeah, definitely. Because I guess it's one thing, like, when you walk into a match like somewhere like you've not wrestled that person before, it's a completely different kind of match when like you have to, even like to the planning of it, you think, well, we've got a story here, so we can't just have like a match that's random. You plan it differently. Like you have to think about the matches you've done with this person beforehand. It's not just a case of, I've not wrestled this person before, like, what are your moves, let's try this. Like you have to think about, why are we doing this in this particular match? Why haven't we done this in the match before? Like there's like so many different ways you have to look at it before you even go into the match.
Yeah, exactly that. Ronnie, I just want to touch back on Road Pro and have a bit of fun with you about your issues with microphones. The shows that I went, the shows that I went to, and it's nothing to do with promo, by the way. The amount of times that you were shouting at Andy because the microphone just kept. We had Francesca as well.
Andy.
We had Francesca on recently, and we mentioned it as well there. But it seemed really weird because like you cutting this, and then it just goes off, and it actually turned into like a storyline without it being.
It was literally like a night with Alex Windsor by the end of it, but it was mainly because like Andy had said to me, there's like set things I had to hit in the promo.
Yeah.
So I couldn't just be like, well, fuck this, I give up. I'm going home. I had to hit like certain things, but I couldn't get there because of the fucking microphones. And every time I got back on track, it cut off again. So I was just like, look, no one's really invested in this because it's cut out so many times. I may as well just poke fun at it at this point. And I did.
And you've done well. It was annoying. I mean, I was there. I think it was the one. I'm pretty sure it was the 229 where you pretty much said that you wanted Mickey James at the Copper Box.
Yes,
It
yeah.
was that one,
I
wasn't
just
it?
wrestled High-End, yeah.
That was it. Yeah, that was it. I couldn't remember who you
But
wrestled.
High-End thought that I was pissed off with the match because I took so long. She was like, I thought you just fucked off because you were pissed off. I was like, no, I was out there for an extra 20 minutes with the fucking microphone.
Yeah, that was but it's turned into quite a comedy bit now. Every time you get the mic, it's like, right, is this going to play up?
Yeah. Come on, Andy. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so Andy, sort your mics out when she needs to talk, please.
Absolutely, yes.
But how was fighting? Because you sort of said you had Giselle Short and you had Mickey James. You really had a legend. You fought a legend, really, at the Copper Box. What was that experience like at the Copper Box? To give you a phrase, when we were talking off air, I mentioned that I had that heart issue. It was that weekend.
Yeah.
And I was meant to be there.
Oh, God. Oh, no.
I was meant to do that and All In. And I was on holiday in Cornwall when it happened. And then I was due to come back on the Friday. I got discharged on the Friday. My girlfriend was just because we flew into Cornwall from London. She was boarding the plane. I was like, yeah, go. I'll get a train back. Train strikes, wasn't there? So I missed everything. Which anyway,
quite inconvenient.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Hart. I mean, yeah, thanks for well, not stopping, but thanks for putting my blood pressure at 200 and something, God, whatever it was. Anyway,
oh Jesus,
yeah, it was 236 over 138.
That's that a new record, is it?
I think it may have been. They did
what
ask.
What are you going for?
Yeah, well, they did ask how I managed to walk into the room, so I gave you that gift question.
Oh, okay, there you go. Yeah. You impressed a lot of people.
Yeah, there you go. Full of impressions, me. Full of impressive moments. Yeah. Anyway, let's get back to the conversation. Mickey James at the Copper Box. How was that for you, wrestling someone of Mickey James's caliber?
I mean, I guess, obviously, when you wrestle someone who is that well known, you do sometimes have to just put it to the back of your mind and just think like, they're just another wrestler. It's just another match. Obviously, there's that constant thought in the back of your head that's like, don't fuck it up. Like, today is not the day to fuck it up. So there's always that added bit of pressure. But again, that is what has to drive you sometimes, like to be able to perform under that kind of pressure. Like, not to say that I've done it so many times, because every time it's different, but you do just have to think like, you either have to crumble, which isn't an option. You just have to like thrive under that pressure.
Yeah. I've seen the match. I did watch it in the end on Rev Pro.
You got there in the end.
I did get there. It was in the hospital bed just before All In. I did watch it. It was great. I enjoyed it very much so as well.
Oh, thank you.
But in terms of that, in terms of like, you see all this, we've seen a lot more American stuff coming over here now. Does that show you not only about the British fans, but how British wrestling is in general? Because you see the likes of TNA going into the talent pool over here in the Indies.
Yeah.
You're seeing more of the the WWEs and the AEWs and all that, and TNA's coming over here to put on shows. That it's not just a reflection on fans, is it? It's a reflection on the actual scene in general.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like, I guess when any company comes over, obviously we know as like the UK wrestlers, it's if we are lucky enough to get a chance to be part of that show, then that's great. Like, we all know the fans are going to be there to see that company. They're not here for us to be like getting all the chances under the sun. Like, it's an added bonus if they even want to bring people outside of their company on. Like, they don't have to do that, and no one's expecting them to. So it is, to be part of a show that isn't part of the UK, it's always it's not just luck of the draw, because that they've picked you for a specific reason, but it is just like, yeah, it's like a privilege.
It is. And the British scene, by the way, for those who don't know, is off the charts at the minute. In both men and women's wrestling over here is incredibly, the talent pool is just ridiculous now.
It is. Yeah, it's been a long road to get there. I think after like COVID and that, it was very much like, oh, fuck, is it going to be the same? But I feel like we are kind of back at that point now where it's back.
Yeah, I think it's definitely back. We've been involved on the channel in British wrestling for over a year with certain companies, and we do certain things, which I'll get into at the end, and I've got to do the
Yeah.
usual plugs that I have to do at the end. And yeah, for me, it's been absolutely mind blowing. I mean, I was backstage with Eddie Dennis this week.
Yeah.
I couldn't fathom how tall he was. I mean, that was just ridiculous to see this guy who's about 6 foot, I don't know, six odd. I thought he had to duck to get in the entranceway when he was walking. But sort of seeing like that's an ex WWE NXT guy that's in,
Yeah.
we're watching. It was just incredible to see that. But then you get to see the talent that we've got coming in, and we've mentioned Leon loads of times, and the fact that when he goes over there, it's just gonna.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's gonna absolutely, and then maybe we'll see you over there in a future show. Who knows?
Yeah.
Fingers crossed. Definitely.
Sorry if if you can hear the fact I'm having some work done in the house.
Oh, okay.
That's why I've got my headphones in, but hopefully it's not.
I was gonna have the bathroom being done today, and luckily enough, he said I can't do Wednesday. I was like, that's fine.
Perfect, yeah.
Perfect for me. But that doesn't matter. The background noise is fine. But we're going to start to wrap it up now, Alex. And you've got a fan page.
I do, yes.
Before I get to their questions, I mean, I can't fathom how it would feel for me if someone's got this page dedicated to myself. You've got a fan page dedicated to you. How do you even comprehend that in your head?
See, so I didn't have so much like a problem with it, but I think when I first had, this was like back in like 2017, I think the first case I had was someone pretending to be me rather than fan page. So my initial thought was like, I hate this. Like they're imposters. Like they're trying to pretend to be me. They're making up like things that aren't true. And I was a bit like, I didn't like it whatsoever. But I guess now there is a massive difference between a fan page and someone pretending to be you. So I guess like fan pages, as long as it clearly says that this is a fan page, this isn't the real person, like it's quite flattering. Like, I think there's probably loads of people that just think nothing of it now, but I think when it is that first person that is like, this is a fan page for yourself, it is a bit like, okay, it's quite nice. It's as long as it's not too over the top or too like intrusive, then yeah, like there's nothing wrong with it. It's harmless.
Yeah, exactly that. Well, Jocelyn, who runs the page, has given me 3 questions. And I'm going to do it in reverse order. I told you about the questions before, just so that you knew and you were okay answering them. I'm going to do reverse order from what I told you on the off air. So, what initially got Alex Windsor into wrestling?
Oh, well, I will say it's not like anyone else's kind of route into wrestling. So when I was at school, I just so happened to have a friend at school who she was training to be a wrestler. Her dad like wrestled a bit, and it's just because I was friends with her and she was into wrestling, she was just like, do you want to start training with me? Like, my knowledge of wrestling before I started when I was 15 was, I knew who Hulk Hogan was, and that was it. Like, it's not like I was a kid, I used to go to shows, I literally had no knowledge of wrestling whatsoever. But because at school I loved sports and I loved drama, like put the two together and you've got wrestling basically. So I started training, and that was it then. Like, my parents thought it was just going to be like, it was just another phase. Like, it's not a phase, mum. Like literally 15 years later I'm still doing it. So that was literally just luck of who my friend was at school that got me into wrestling. And that was it. Like, from there I just got the bug for it. I eventually started watching it. I think there was a story. I was at my first WrestleMania party. Like, Charlie Morgan was there with me. Like, I've known her for years. And it was the one where Brock Lesnar broke the Undertaker's winning streak.
Oh, that didn't happen.
And the match happened. Oh, it didn't happen? Oh, well.
Not now.
Oh, yeah. Well, someone broke the Undertaker's winning streak, and everyone was like, no. And I was like, what's the big deal here? Because I didn't know. And they were like, it's shameful. How do you not know this? I was like, I don't watch wrestling. So I do watch a bit of wrestling now. My knowledge has expanded past that. But yeah, that's how I got into wrestling, literally like by chance.
That was a very bad night for you to go to a WrestleMania party when that happened. That's for sure. Not recommended to anybody else.
No.
For those of you that did know, that was the day the Undertaker's streak broke at WrestleMania. The streak that should never have been broken in the first place, in my opinion. Anyway,
but we won't talk about that.
We won't talk about who beat him because he's currently erased from wrestling at this moment in time for whatever reason. Anyway, so you did then put your top 3 favorite matches. Now that can be vague, so we'll do it in your top 3 that you've had and the top 3 that you've seen.
Okay, I will say off the top of my head, I can't think of 3 matches that I've watched apart from, I think it was 2016. This is when I first started like really watching wrestling. I first got introduced to like New Japan.
Yeah.
And this was like 2016, and I remember watching the Golden Lovers versus the Young Bucks. And it was just, I think the first time I'd seen in a match like wrestling, storyline, emotions, and I was literally just like my mind was absolutely blown. Like I felt like a bona fide wrestling fan watching it. But yeah, that match for me, that was it then.
Cool.
But yeah, my matches, I would definitely say Maki Ito when I went to Tokyo Joshi Pro. Danny Luna at, was it St. Neots or Stevenage?
St. Neots.
Yeah, Danny Luna at St. Neots. And it was only like a family show, but I just think just the match itself was really enjoyable. Like obviously we've wrestled a couple of times already, but I will say that was like one of my favorite matches. And Charlie Morgan when we went to Dubai, that was definitely like got to be up there. Yeah, that was just a really special match as well.
Excellent. And then the last one that she asked was, how did the name Alex Windsor become? How did you become Alex Windsor?
So obviously I started off as Liberty.
Yeah.
It was literally given to me by my trainer, like I didn't pick it myself. So when I left Norwich to like kind of try and break out into the scene, I was like, right, I need a revamp. And it was actually Ryan Smile that kind of helped me with the name. He was like, just think of like a regular name and then put like something on the end of it. So he was like, just something like Alex. And I was like, okay, that's fine. Like it's easy to remember. And then the Windsor part, it was like not that I wanted any kind of like link to like the royal family, but he was like, it's a regal royal kind of name. And he was like the character I wanted to get at the time, that like I came across really regal, very like not stuck up, but very, looked down my nose at everyone. And then when I get in the ring, I'm like a little devil, that kind of thing. So it kind of, like Ryan helped me a lot with like the new character in general, like to go with like Alex Windsor. So that's kind of where the name kind of spouted from.
I do like the character, and I do like your music as well. I do like that.
Yeah.
Very, very good. I do feel like
the new music.
Yeah,
by Filthy. That's the guy who done the music. Little plug there for him.
Yeah, thanks for that, because I was looking to find out who done it as well. What I would say, and you mentioned a good point there, just before we start to wrap up on and get you to do your how people can get involved with you, I would say the way that you carry yourself from that music, you do, and this isn't just because you're on the show. I've said this many a times, is that I do feel as if you carry yourself like a main eventer. You know what I mean? Like when the music hits and someone comes out, and you're like, okay, this is somebody that you want. Either this is like
but you want to have that presence, like, but even before the match starts, you want people to be like, fucking hell, like who's this person before you even get to the ring.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's basically what I'm trying to allude to what I found of you when I first saw you that time at Rev Pro back in July of last year. That was my first thought. The music, and the presence and the walk to the ring. You certainly were big time in my eyes at that point.
So thank you.
You've done a good job, but you do a great job anyway. Now, as we wrap up now, obviously, where can people find you on socials? Are you available for bookings? If so, where can they get hold of you?
I am available for bookings. Yes, I do have my US visa now, so I'll be taking bookings in UK, America. I've got some more shows in Denmark coming up. I'm at Body Slammers again next month. My socials are Hail Windsor, both on Twitter and Instagram, so you can find me on there.
There we go. I need to do a couple of bits, so just you can go for a sleep or something if you want. Right, okay. Big shout outs to our sponsors, so Taylor James, Luna, Artemis, Adonis, Ignite Pro Wrestling as well. LA Taylor as well as our sponsor. Ignite Pro Wrestling Carnage. I think that's every one of our sponsors. We also had crowned our new women's champion. There we go. We crowned our new women's champion a couple of weeks ago. Aluna won the Turnbuckle Women's Championship. Smashing Mike did retain the men's Turnbuckle Championship this Sunday when we was at Ignite, and we also at Ignite this week, then just gone, announced that we are bringing back our fully sponsored show with Ignite. Buckle Up will be happening in July. Names TBC, so just keep a lookout on channels, our channel and Ignite's channel. But you can find us on HTT Buckle on Twitter, X, whatever it's called now. Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast and all other social media platforms. Alex, it's been wonderful having you on this morning. I will let you know.
Oh, thank you so much. I've had a great time.
It's been a pleasure for me. You can go and have some scrambled eggs and start season 6 of Line of Duty.
Yeah, well, I've finished my cup of tea, so I need another one. So
there you go. I'm gonna literally get a cup of coffee myself. But thank you so much, guys. Again, just keep watching us. We're going to be back with Heath Slater's coming on in a couple of weeks, so keep an eye out for him. And a few other names that will be dropping in the next couple of days. But until then, she has been iron-willed Alex Windsor. I have been your host, Adam Cousins. Buckle down, stay safe, and goodbye.